Myself Shravan Kumar, Assistant Professor from Department of Computer Science and Engineering, Ajay Kumar Garg Engineering College. My today's topic is cascading style sheets, and that topic belongs to the subject of web designing. And so, what is the meaning of CSS? CSS is basically cascading style sheet, which determine how the elements in our HTML or XHTML documents are displayed and formatted. So by using the CSS, we separate the content of web page from the presentation, like formatting and style of that content. So CSS enable us to make all the web pages of our website look similar and consistent. So the power of CSS is that it allows us to make site-wide formatting changes by making edit to a single file. So this will see in later on section. So if we say cascading style sheet, so it is the simple mechanism for adding style on fonts, colors, layout of the web document. Also, the style provides the powerful control over the presentation of the web pages. So that is the snapshot how a CSS look like. In CSS, this is the example how we will use this CSS. So CSS is a style sheets, as I earlier told to you. So it consists of rules. Rules means some predefined rules, or we can say we make some rules. So each rule consists of one or more selector and a declaration block. And each declaration block consists of list of declarations in the curly bracket. And each declaration consists of a property which is defined by a colon. So a value of that particular value of that particular property, then a semicolon is optional for that. That is the syntax for CSS. Here, first we define the selector. Selector can be your HTML tag, and property is that particular attribute, and the value that particular attribute value. For example, if I write HTML, if I write this code in HTML, so in this code, I have mentioned the tags, HTML tag, head tag, title tag, body tag, and this body tag also include one attribute, BG color, means background color, whose color is red. On the same parallel line, if I compare this in CSS, here the tag becomes tag known as selectors, fine, and this BG color means attribute, which becomes property, and value remains value. So this body in CSS we name it as selector. So I will write body, next curly bracket start, attribute. Here in CSS it becomes property. So I will write BG color. Next colon, semicolon is there. In CSS that particular thing is known as a rule. We define a rule within a selector. So that code explained here. Style sheet always start with style tag. Style type equal to either text or CSS. Next body tag is there. Then curly bracket is there. Means starting of that particular CSS rule. We define the property. Property means background color. A color is defined here, and this particular thing is defined as rule. Same with another tag or element, that is h1 tag. Here it is known as selector, h1 selector. Properties, font family. Family name is given here. Next, font size. Size of that font is defined. Color of that particular font. Alignment, text alignment, which is either center, justify, whatever value we will provide it. And closing of this style sheet. This style sheet can be used as internal, external, or inline. So there are three kinds of CSS, as I earlier mentioned: inline, internal, or external. If I talk about internal, that affect elements in an entire page. If I talk about external, a separate CSS code will be written on the file, and that's stored with .css extension, and that can be used in particular HTML or XHTML page. If I talk about inline or local, that is confined to a single tag or an element. If I talk about the precedence of that particular all these things, inline will always overpass the internal, then external. So there are three ways to use CSS, as I earlier told to you: internal inline style sheet, internal style sheet, and external style sheet. Inline style sheet, CSS code is placed directly into the XHTML or HTML element within the body section of the web page. That always come in the body section. If I talk about the internal style sheet, CSS code is placed into a separate or dedicated area within the head section of the web page. This code, if I write this whole code in head section, if I write it in head section, of particular HTML, this becomes internal style sheet. Next, external style sheet, CSS code placed into separate computer file, and that then link that particular to the web page. That becomes external style sheet. So let us look now example of these methods. First, inline style sheet. To define an inline style sheet, we simply add style to an XHTML element with CSS declaration as attribute value. If I write here, you will see h2 tag is here. Next, I will use style attribute equal to colon start, that particular attribute value, or we can say selector, its attribute and its value, color equal to red. Next, text is written here. Again, second H2 is written, but no style is applied here. You will see in execution of this code will be executed with particular style code, and that becomes in red color as I earlier mentioned here, and this code will not affected by particular code. So style is applied on only this H2, not on second H2. So an inline style declaration is highly specified and format just one element of the page, one or more than one element. No other element including other H2 elements on the page will be affected by this CSS. So since inline styles have limited scope, so don't separate content from presentation. So their use is generally discouraged. Second, I talk about internal style sheet. In internal style sheet, as I earlier mentioned to you, to use internal style sheet, we add style section within the head of the page. All our CSS declaration goes within this section. So I write head tag. Here I will use style tag, style type equal to text or CSS. Next, I will apply my CSS code H2 color colon red. Style is closed here. Style tag is closed here within the head tag. Once I apply on H2, as you will see, since we have applied H2 with particular color colon red, you will see in the execution both H2 will be applied with red color. In earlier case, we have seen only it was applied to first H2, not on the second H2. But in later case, in internal style sheet, it applied to both. So style declared in the internal style sheet affect all the matching element on the page. In this example, all H2 page elements are displayed in the color red. If I thought, since formatting declaration are entirely in the head section away from the actual page content, so internal style sheets do a much better job than inline style at separating content from the presentation. If I talk about third type of style sheet, that is external style sheet. So we use to external style sheet, we create a new file with the extension .css. Extension will be .css, and write our style declaration into that particular file, and we then add link element into our HTML file right after the opening of head tag. That comes in the head tag. So you will see here, this code will be written in the separate file. That file name will be style.css. I name it here it is style.css. So use that particular separate style sheet into main HTML page. What we will use? We will use head. We will use link element. Then link rel equal to style sheet. Next, type equal to text or CSS, that is optional attribute. This attribute is very important. href equal to that particular style sheet you have created with extension. Once this style sheet will be called, you will see this element, this style sheet will be applied on both H2, and you will see the result. That particular style is applied on the HTML element. So the link element instruct the browser to load the external file specified by the href attribute, as I earlier mentioned here, and to apply the CSS style declaration contained here. Next, that is the real power of external style sheet. The main advantage of this is here, we will create one style sheet and that can be applied to number of pages simultaneously, like here, here and here. On single change, it will change entire website or number of pages simultaneously. So see here, I create one single file, style.css. The style is h2 color red. Page 1 contain h2, page 2 contain h2, page 3 contain h2. All web pages whose h2 is applied, all will be color in red. If I make it blue, all color will become blue. So it will affect all the web pages. So style declared in an external style sheet will affect all matching element on all web pages that link to the style sheet. By editing the external style sheet, we can make site-wide changes even to hundreds of pages instantly. Next, what is the difference between internal and external style sheet? If I talk about internal style sheet, they are appropriate for small sites, especially for those that have just a single page, or might also make sense when each page of site need to have a complete different look. If I talk about external style sheet, they are better for multi-pages website that need to have uniform look and feel to all pages, that make for faster loading website, like less redundant code, and also allowed designer to make site-wide changes quickly and easily, as I earlier discussed to you. So external style sheet create a furthest separation between content and the presentation. For this reason and the other listed above, we will consider external style sheet to be better option when creating a new site. Next is setting multiple properties. We can use multiple properties, can be used for a single style sheet. See here, on a paragraph selector, we can change multiple properties like color, font style, as well as text align in a single rule. So in this example, all text within the paragraph element will show in red, italic, as well as center line. We can write it either in single line or it can be written in multiple line. That doesn't affect the code. So I write again this in this way. Just as with HTML, browser ignore the space character in the CSS code. So many designers take advantage of this fact by placing the opening and closing bracket on their own dedicated line, each of the property and value pairing and place on their own intended line with a space after the colon. So this make the code for easier to read. Next, we talk about type of selector. There are number of selectors are there. We can use it. So these are selectors like universal selector, type selector, descendant selector, child selector, adjacent sibling selector, attribute selector, class selector, ID selector, pseudo class selector, as well as pseudo element selector. We will discuss one by one. First is universal selector. Also, selector can be grouped. First, we talk about the universal selector. So universal selector will be represented by star or asterisk. So it matches every element of that type. Syntax will be asterisk, curly bracket, property, and colon value. As the following rule means that all the text will have the size 40 pixels. All the text. It will apply to all text. Next is type selector. Like this one. type means element. P, color green, font size 15 pixel, font style italic. Second type is div, color red, font size 16 pixel. So a type selector is the name of the element type. A type selector match every instance of the element type. Next is class selector. Now we are going to specific changes. So the class selector says if we want a particular group of elements to be changed, not whole element, so we will use class selector. As we see in earlier section, once we are going to apply H2, it was applying to all H2 tag. Here we are defined to some particular content. So in P, we will define P element with a class attribute equal to that particular value. Introductory paragraph. Fine. Now, how we are going to apply? We either we use style P dot introductory paragraph colon color blue, or we can use dot operator. This dot in CSS, we will define dot to define a class that apply to the P element with class name introductory paragraph, or it will apply to particular element within the class name introductory paragraph. Both way it will be applied. Next, if I talk about the class selector, an element may have more than one class. So in this example, P class equal to green coat new. Multiple classes are there. So this element match the following selector: P dot coat dot green, P dot new, P dot coat dot new dot green in random way also. It does not match P dot new dot old. If you are using any another kind of value, it will not apply. Also, only few browser will support it. Not whole browser are supporting, few browser are supporting it. Next, we are talking about ID selector. ID selector are identical to classes, except there are only one element with given ID element. So that are more specific than class. In HTML or XML, body ID equal to introduction, because each tag have some particular ID value. So body ID equal to introduction. So ID selector will be represented by hash. ID selector will be represented by hash. So we can write either body hash introduction curly bracket start font size equal to 12 pixel, or only that particular hash introduction font size equal to 12 pixel. In both way, it will be applied to particular ID element. Next, attribute selector. We are specific more than attribute. So P dot attribute match P when attribute is set to a particular value. So P title equal to intro or P title equal to intro. So the quote are optional. So it match P when its title attribute is set to an intro. Next is pseudo classes. Most important topic is pseudo classes. The pseudo classes link or visited link, handover link, focus or active are used to define style for link and visited link. So that is represented by this way. So if I talk about the H over, handover, is used to define a style for an element when the mouse is over that element. If I talk about focus, it is used to define a style when element is ready to accept input. Next, active link is there. So it is used when element is being activated by the user during the time between the pressing the mouse button and releasing or pressing it again in different places. So that is the example of pseudo classes. A colon link color blue, or A colon visited color purple. We can define the particular value for that. Like another way, input colon focus background color equal to yellow. Next, for links, the order of the rule is important. And one more thing, for usability point of view, it is not recommended to change the default color of the link and visited link. Next, pseudo elements. Another important topic. A pseudo element selector match part of an element, whereas a pseudo class selector match a complete element. So either colon first line or colon first selector match the first line and first letter of an element respectively. So we can define P paragraph colon first line text formation capitalize, or we can say P colon first letter font size equal to 48 pixel, color equal to red. Next, child selector. Most important topic it is also. So it match an element that is immediate child to another element. For example, if we wanted to all emphasize text of our paragraphs to have green text but not emphasize text to other element, we would use the following CSS rule. So it is represented by greater than symbol, P greater than symbol, emphasize, color equal to green. Same with adjacent sibling selector, which match an element that is immediately after another element but not child on that. So it is represented by plus sign. So for example, if we wanted all paragraph that immediately followed by H4 have green text but not other paragraphs, we would use the following CSS rule: H4 plus paragraph and color equal to green. Next is contextual selector. The above rule match by the bold element if the element is nested inside the P element. Remind it, that is contextual, means element within the element. Next is grouping of selector. We can group number of selector by applying rule, that is by comma operator. So H1, H2, H3 font size equal to 120%. That is applied to all, either on contextual, H1, H2 and H3. Thank you.